Warrior Moms podcast. This is Michelle and...
Hi, and I'm Amy. And we are excited that you're here today. And we are very excited that we have our friend and fellow Warrior Mom, Rae Ann Gruver. And she is here to tell us about her son, Max, and how she has survived the last 6 years without him.
So glad you're here.
Yes, so glad you're here, Rae Ann. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me. And you girls and the Warrior Moms mean the world to me. So I am glad we were able to share our stories together and talk about our kids whenever we want.
I know. It helps that we have each other who, I mean, there's days where, we can just look at each other and you don't have to say a word. You just know the pain, the sadness, also the joy that they were our children, and how much we love them. Let's hear, tell us about Max.
So Max, he was 18 when he passed away. And he was just, honestly, you guys, he just was, a great kid. I don't mean it like, he was, he got in trouble too.
Right.
But the kid's personality was so great. He was so laid back and just really easygoing. And, he would just walk into a room and it's not like he wanted to be the center of attention, but when he walked into the room, he said hello to everyone, stopped and talked to parents. Parents loved talking to him because, especially when he got into sports, because he knew everything about sports. When he was with more of just the kids, and he was one of the older ones with our friends' younger kids, but he always made sure the other kids were participating in whatever they were doing. And it was important to him to make people feel welcome wherever they were and be a part of whatever we were doing. So, Matt, he was just a good kid. Like I said, very easygoing and laid back. And
what were some of his passions, things that he loved to do?
Max absolutely loved sports. Crazy, crazy, crazy about any sport. It really didn't matter. He played sports too, like basketball and baseball and football. But he landed up in high school kind of turning into a writer, and he wrote sports articles for a website, Ep10 Radio out of New York. And they had hired him on, and he had to write I can't remember the exact number, but say 5 at least a week he had to write on sports. And he did it all himself. He had deadlines, and so he would be even one spring break, we were on spring break and he's in the closet, like a big closet, getting his articles done and everybody leave me alone. And, but he wrote 360 articles. You can Google him and Ep10 and you'll see everything he did.
Oh, how wonderful is that?
No,
to have that, his words.
No, it's cool. And he did everything himself. So pictures and pictures of the sports players or whatever, that is all him. He did it. He loved it. Did it for 3 years. Even going to college, he was going to move, I think, to another group that did it, and they were going to start paying him for what he did in high school. They didn't pay him, which was fine with him. He loved it, and they loved his work, and they just really all worked together. And they've been very nice and very sweet. After Max died, Ep10 has reached out a few times just to, especially on September 14th and things like that, where we've gotten a message hey, this kid's missed, So anyway, but he loves sports.
And it also speaks to him just finding that opportunity. I mean,
yes,
it wasn't something just right here in our backyard, I mean,
yeah.
How did he even come across that?
I'm not even really sure. But he loved it, and then we got him connected over at Blessed Trinity, where he went to high school, to the lady that was in charge of the school paper and stuff like that. Well, that's what he did then at school, until he graduated. But he was a part of the paper. He would interview, people, the principals, the teachers, the sports, and
so cool.
He was a big part of that. So that's when he was going to college. He knew he wanted to do something with journalism, either sports journalism, or he was kind of looking at political journalism too. Who knows what he would have done at this point, but, he definitely had a lot of interests and a lot of things he was looking at.
Wow. Well, tell us about September 14th. What happened? What led to losing Max?
Well, on September 14th, I was at work, and I was working at a new job I had just gotten. When the kids graduated that past May, I was working at their school. And so I was like, it's time to get on with my career more so again. And Max is going to be away at school. You know, the kids are older, blah, blah, blah. We have people to drive. So I took a job working for a doctor's office. I'm a nurse, and I was basically going to be their office nurse. So I had started that summer. And so in September, it's just really odd. I was sitting at work with my coworker, and it was only we go to lunch at noon, and it was right about noon. And her and I had just been chatting about Max. Max had just seen his first football game on that past Saturday. He'd never been to a, LSU game, and excited. We're laughing about him. And then I'm like, and I was kind of thinking as a first kid too to go to college. I'm like, I hope everything's like cool with like the tuition went through or whatever. So I'm like, but I guess like the bursar's office would call me if there was a problem. And we were kind of laughing about that. And the next thing you know, it's so weird. The phone rings on my cell and it just says Baton Rouge and the number. And I'm like, kind of laughing with Eileen. And I'm like, I guess the bursar's office is calling me. And I'm totally thinking, like, oh, I must have missed something, right? But instead, I answered the phone, and it was a man named Alex, and from the hospital. He was a nurse there in the ER, and he said, are you Mrs. Gruver? And he said, your son, Max, was brought in by some of his friends, and they had been worried about him and that they had found him unresponsive in his dorm room. And of course, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And then I immediately was like, that's not the right story. Like I knew it wasn't, couldn't have been true. Yeah. Because I mean, right now, because we had just dropped him off, right, a few weeks ago, and he lived in a dorm in the middle, a great dorm in the middle of campus. And he was on the 3rd or 4th floor. Like you couldn't have carried him out and down the elevator without someone else noticing, right? This was in the morning. It was like 10 or 11 in the morning. And whoever works in, you're leaving, carrying a kid out and then into the main area of campus that nobody was calling the police or kids were yelling to get, anything, ambulance. Yes. Yeah. So I knew right then something was wrong. And they said, they brought him in unresponsive. Right now we're working on him. And, I just want you to know it. Actually, they talked to the doctor I work for too, because I kind of freaked out and threw the phone at Dr. Mike and was like, find out what they're saying to me right now. And anyway, so that was the initial way we found out. And then Dr. Mike and Eileen they drove me back home to my house to try to, I don't know what you're trying to do at that point. I know I was kind of just, I don't know if it was pacing, but you're like, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like I was, okay, I guess I'm going to have to pack something because we're going to have to go see him, but trying to.
You're like, do I jump in the car?
Yes, you just have no idea. And I'd called Steve from work and told him he needed to come home. I told him something was going on with Max. I had also called my best friend Zoe to see if she, told her something's wrong with Max. I need you to get Lily at school and bring her home. And then trying to figure out Alex, which he was in high school. And actually, Dr. Mike he called Roswell High School and talked to them. And Alex was just going to be able to come home and meet us, but didn't know, they weren't going to say anything to him as of yet. So about 45 minutes after I got home, maybe, I don't know what exactly timing was, Alex, the nurse, called back again and said, we're really sorry, Mrs. Gruver. We did everything we could, but, Max didn't make it. And so, I'm crushed, obviously. I just remember being in my kitchen. It was just weird, staring out the window, and Steve wasn't back home yet, and I wasn't going to call him and tell him over the phone while he was driving, right? So I ended up actually calling my sister, and I was just in shock. And I remember telling her, I was like, Kelly, Max is dead. And my her reaction, I can still remember it. Her reaction was, "What are you talking about? Yeah. Max isn't dead. What are you talking?" But it's the shock for her too. And I'm like, "No, Kelly, something happened. I just talked to the hospital. Max died. Like, so it was just that whole, just out of,
Pure trauma.
yes.
Your brain trying to sort
Yes.
through it.
Yes. And so, obviously then Steve got home and I had to tell him, right when he walked in that Max didn't make it. And then we waited for the kids and there was a big cry going on in our living room with the four of us. And, it was, it's like it's the worst day of your life, right? When it changes your life forever too. Like nothing will ever be the same after getting that phone call for sure. And, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it does, I guess it gets easier, but I think all of us, you learn to live with that bad, but you got to start making things good too, because I mean, you need to live and your family needs to live. And, it's just, but it's not easy because it's always there and we always miss him. Like
the missing.
Yes.
Just so hard and so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
What were those first days like, and weeks, months, like?
Yeah, it was hard. It's all, I always say too, like that whole first year after Max died is like, I call it my ghost year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember some stuff. I remember those few days after, not all of it, but then that whole year, I mean, I don't remember a lot. Obviously you're very depressed. I'm trying to be there for my other two kids, but they're going through so much stuff too. It was just a very odd household in general. Everyone was sad. Our whole house, like we had a house that was like, just, always fun. Everyone was coming up for, Friday nights, let's have dinner and cocktails and whatever. Like things were always going on and a lot of fun. And it just went silent and depressing and,
unnatural
and hard. Yeah. And just then and the kids, it's hard for them, right? Seeing me and their dad so upset. It's hard for me to, you're trying to talk to them, but they have their own way that they're trying to deal with it. I remember Lily, for months, I was like, she's like handling this the best. Like, but I think it was honestly like also the shock for her. And she saw the rest of us like so upset. And then it literally came to a point, it was like October, November. And I asked Lily, I just said, are you doing okay? And she just broke down and she's like, why does everyone keep asking me that? No, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Like my brother died. But I think she was just trying to keep it so together. And then at that point, she just had to let it out. I'm not okay. Like, I'm not okay. And then she was crying, but it was good. I think it was her time to, maybe it had settled in at that point and she just could release some of that. And, so just, that first year, hard. Family was great. Our friends were great, and stuff too, but it was just depressing much, and, and then I say, it's like each year I feel like it gets a little, it's definitely better with the depression and honestly, I feel like just this past year is my first year. I really feel closer to how I was almost 6 years ago, but he's always there, Right. I mean, Max the grief is always there. Yeah.
Behind,
and you never really know. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And I'd be in a perfectly great mood right now. And I just can think about something about Max or whatever. And, you just break down or you feel sorry for yourself because you just miss your kids so much. Yeah. And, but yeah, it's hard.
How do you feel with, all these kids going back to college now? I know that Lily's about to head off to college and, does that bring back any type of PTSD?
Yeah.
It's not the right word, but,
I know what you're talking about.
A trigger.
No, I totally agree with you. I think, obviously throughout the year, there's definitely harder times or months or whatever. Like obviously we're coming up on February. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. We're coming up on September and, this will be the 6-year mark. And, September's just always hard, right? And January's his birthday, that we do celebrate his birthday. Like very, very positive. I mean, we always go out, we do something really fun. As Max's girlfriend from high school usually comes with us, and some of our other best friends, and we do something, each year. Like one year, it was like you had to name. Each of us had to go around, and we kept naming all the things we loved about Max. So we had and we had to do 24 things. You know what I mean? Like different things like that. Or
love that.
I think that this year we did. What question would you ask Max if he was still alive? What do you think Max would be doing? It was just fun little things like that to just like,
I love
you
that,
know,
Rae Ann.
yeah. It was cool. I'll show you.
And that's so neat because I'm
Yes.
sure it brings out different
Yeah.
stories about him, or even just different memories.
Memories.
I haven't thought about that in a long
Yes.
time.
So that was
Yeah.
really fun. The last couple of years, we've kind of done that, and just great. I'm going to send those what we did to you guys so you can see it.
I love it.
I'm probably posted it on Facebook, but I'll send it to you guys. But it was great. I just saw it the other day in my notes, like oh, that was so great. Oh, that was a funny one they said, but hard. And I personally, I think the hardest time for me is the month of May. I really have a hard time then when everyone's graduating, and I honestly, I kind of don't look at Facebook around that time. I mean, I'm so happy for everybody and their kids and my own kids with the graduating and all that. But to me, it brings me really down, because that was one of our happiest times with Max, was that May. We were so excited about him graduating and going to LSU, and that whole summer, he was just ready to be there and ready to go. And I was like, this is going to be his time. Yeah. Like college was going to be his, time to just spread his wings and do his thing. And we were so incredibly excited for him. And every May, that's the feelings I remember for him, and just how excited we were. And obviously how tragic it got changed. I mean, even dropping him off in August, that's a hard time too. Like August, just when I kind of don't look too much at people dropping off kids at college. And only because, I mean, it takes me right back there and, dropping Max off. So,
what other strategy? So, kind of trying to avoid some of those triggering things, like looking at Facebook. What are some other things that have helped you to push through those really heavy, dark days? What are some of the things that really matter?
I would, one thing I've done, it really kind of started after, around COVID time. So I'm going to say 2021, the beginning of it, like that Christmas. I really started spending some time on self-care. And now it is like I focus a lot on self-care at this point because of Max. It helps keep all that positive nature together. I do very much. I mean, I could walk around angry can be for the rest of my life. And I always have that anger in me, that what happened to him. But I don't want to live that way. I want to be happy. I want to be more how I used to be, engaging with friends and more fun. Like I really just started going back out in public a lot this past 6 months, but it's been basically, the whole thing's been a kind of a journey for me over the last year and a half or so in the self-care and taking the time.
Like what are things that you do?
I took up a lot. I taught myself to knit, and I can only knit scarves. So if anyone would like a scarf, let me know the colors.
How many rows can you do? Just one long row? Are they skinny scarves?
No, I can do. They're pretty good. They're scarves. I know, and right now I'm doing them, and I have a huge pile of them, and I'm gonna give them to homeless people, when it gets colder. Yes. So, and I would love to learn how to do something else, but one day.
Do you know how many times I've tried to learn to crochet? No, I just have one long snake.
Yes.
So maybe I should try knitting.
That's what my friend does. She didn't like the knitting, so she started crocheting, and it's always these long,
That's all I can do.
A long string.
So I admire you very much for making a whole scarf.
Yeah, but it's nice. You're sitting there, you're watching TV, you're just kind of doing it, and it's this thing. I got way back into just reading. I hadn't read in a long time, couldn't focus, right? And we landed up starting a book club, me and some friends, and we are going strong since January of 2020, which who knew we'd make it this far, but we're
That's
very proud.
great.
Yeah. So we meet once a month, but that got me back reading. I read all the time now, which is great. Because again, it takes you away from these things. Like it's hard to not think about Max and everything he's got going on, but it's just really good things, yoga, um, relaxing, just really working against the anxiety that you get from losing your child and the depression,
And you've been really, proactive in spreading the word about, just how he died and prevention and so forth. And when did all of that begin?
So us founding the Max Gruver Foundation really started pretty immediately, very small, of course, but literally the night before we were going to bury Max, I was up in his bedroom. I was looking for a journal I knew he had from like 8th grade that I had put away because I didn't read it, but I was like, oh, Max may want this, later. And I think I'd seen some of it. I was like, oh, this is really nice. It was like reflections and just different things that he had in there. And I was looking for that. And while I was looking for that, I came across another notebook of his. And a lot of it was like his journalism stuff. And in there was this paper he had written on blessings when he was 16. And it was a great, oh my God, the whole paper. Of course, I was in tears, but, we, wrote about like, what 3 things do you find as blessings? And the first thing he said was this girl from Blakely, and basically just how Blakely has taught him how to love and be a better person, and, how they've grown together. It was great. The second thing he had in there was his Jeep Wrangler that he had from Steve. But what he said about that was, I really was like, wow, like, is he said, I'm thankful for this car so that for me, I can get in touch with my friends. I can drive to see them. I can pick them up. Like, I can use it now that I'm an adult. And that's why I love having it. Not just, oh, I have a car,
Right. It's not
and
just material. It was for him. About making connections.
Yes.
Keeping connections.
Yeah. And then the last thing was he talked about Steve and I, which I'll start crying on that, but just, wrote like how wonderful he thought his parents was and everything that we've taught him. And it was, wow. Yeah.
It was too much.
And then the last paragraph of his, and we use this all the time when we're speaking and it's all in my house, but he wrote, the last paragraph said, hold on one second. I don't know why I just drew a blank on that. I got it. Cut that little part out. But it's, God works in funny ways. He does bad things sometimes because in the end they are good. Something bad can happen to you, but it may make you better. He does bad to ultimately create good. Well, I read that.
My gosh.
I burst into tears. I went running down to my sister who was in my office. And I'm like, oh my God, look what Max wrote. Look what Max wrote. I'm like, we have to do something. We have to do something about this hazing. We have to change it. My sister's crying. And she's like, we will. She's like, we're going to do it. And right there, she was like, we're going to start a foundation, and do this. And then just kind of from there, I mean, obviously right after that was a little crazy, but Blakely was here from London because she was doing her first year of college in London. So she had flown back in, obviously, and she was here for about 2 weeks. And her and I we designed the first wristband, and started it off really first as for family and friends that wanted it. And it was amazing how much it kind of took off, that a bunch of friends, because they all were freshmen, right? We were shipping out bracelets to chapters, I mean, literally across the country, that wanted to know Max's story and they wanted to share it with their chapters. And so literally that's what we were doing for like that school year right there. And it was just amazing. I had, volunteers from, Blessed Trinity coming over to help me bag these up and send them out. And it was just wow, and just how people wanted to talk about it in their chapters, and about how hazing, you can't be hazing, you got to stop the hazing. People die from hazing. Like, why are we doing it? It is, against all the rules in any organization, and most places it's against the law. So,
and take us back just for a moment. So earlier you had said when you got that phone call that, his roommates found him unresponsive and you knew something was wrong.
Yes.
So connect us now to what you now know is that Max was a victim of hazing. So tell a little bit about that.
Yeah, pretty right away on the 14th. I remember one time, I think by the time we were at the house, I believe maybe somebody had mentioned hazing. But I know for sure, because we ended up getting on a plane, right, going to Baton Rouge. And the minute we landed, my brother had texted me and said, oh my God, it's all over the national news. And the president of the university is saying it's hazing.
Oh, wow.
So, which was good in the aspect of they weren't trying to hide it.
They jumped in immediately
Yes.
and said
this was a hazing, and that's what they're being investigated for. That day, I know they had like active members in the pledges, like they were interviewing, and thankfully in this situation, especially the pledges, and then some of the brothers more later, but they were telling the truth instead of that whole covering up, and which I see with so many of my other mom friends that their sons have passed away, and the fraternities, these guys, and they will not talk, and they make it really difficult for a long time. But that was one thing, at least, was on our side, was that, and again, these guys adored Max, and they wanted the truth out. They were like, this killed our friend, and this is wrong, right? So that was kind of how we found out it was going to be hazing. And then it just never stopped. Then it just kept coming more information. And then they were just narrowing it down. There was like 10 that ended up getting arrested first, because it was the hazers. I think personally, the way I look at what we know, there was 4 hazers, main hazers. I'm sure some of the other guys were doing some minor stuff, but definitely 4 main hazers. But at first they arrested all 10 that were involved, if you were there and just watching, whatever. And then it kind of worked out. Yeah, you're, a bystander watching it go on. And then they narrowed it down to the 4. And then the main one, Matthew Knockan, however you say his name, was definitely the ringleader of focusing in on Max. And that was known right away too. So everyone was pointing the fingers at him and how he treated Max then and before. So anyway, so we got everything really pretty quickly, which I know now is a great thing to have, because like I said, other friends
blessings
don't know.
Blessings in the silver lining.
Yeah, blessings in, yeah.
Whatever the saying is, yes.
Yes.
We look for our blessings wherever we can. And
yes.
that is a huge blessing.
Yeah. I mean, have to like live all these years, not them taking any credit for it, and, all that's, and then and we did have stuff that went on that they totally were trying to make Max look horrible. Like, they were totally victim blaming and victim shaming on the defense side. And again, anybody that knew Max there or here was like, not a chance. Like, you were grasping at straws trying to make that kid look bad, and everybody knew it. So
I'm going to ask a very naive question. Do you think that they didn't know, or I don't know the right way to ask it, but they're naive. They didn't think that somebody could die from drinking too much. Do you think they're just not informed, educated, or?
What I think happens with a lot of this is, okay, right, they're 18 to 22-year-old guys or whatever.
Yes.
And, right, when we were that age, right, you think you're invincible.
Yes.
You think you're invincible. I don't think you really think straight. We can even do it at our age.
Right.
But Do I think they woke up that morning and were like, "Oh, you know what? We're gonna go kill Max Gruver tonight"? Nope, I don't think that at all.
No, I don't think that either. It's
But
just,
they woke up that morning
yes.
and they knew they were holding this Bible study. They knew they were going to use diesel alcohol. They knew they were going to get those brothers really, really drunk. A lot of them threw up that night, besides Max. I think they also sit around and think, well, this won't happen to us.
Yes.
Tim Piazza may have died back in February, but that's a fluke, right? I talked to my son about the Tim Piazza thing, but now hindsight, I should have talked to him a whole hell of a lot more and really known more. But you know what? I didn't know. I was at the mind of, oh, well, it's not going to happen to Max. It's not going to happen to us. Like,
That just happens on the news.
it's on the news and in Pennsylvania, not, in Louisiana or whatever. And
even though you were talking to Max about it, not everybody else was talking to their children about it.
no. And then these guys, that's the other thing, like these hazers, I really do think the majority of fraternities and sororities and organizations, I don't think all 100 members are hazing. I tend to think when you find things out, it's usually like a group of them. And that's definitely a Max's case. And it's usually like the guy's a year older. They were like mostly sophomores there. And you know what? They had just had it done to them last year.
Mm-hmm.
So then what they like to do is then, oh, well, this year we're going to show you, we're going to do it even worse to you guys than how we got it last year. Because we say, hazing is a cycle of abuse where the abused later becomes the abuser. Just because it happened to you does not mean you need to then turn around and do it to somebody else. And I think, for instance, like the guy that killed Max was mean. He had been hazing that whole semester really bad to the pledges. They already had called him dangerous and reckless. And it even had a meeting about him on Monday before Max died. Their exec board, had a talk, and they're like, we got to do something about him because, the weekend before, I think he was shooting, airsoft guns, with the pellets, the BB gun. Yeah, he was shooting the pledges with that during the tailgating stuff, and there had been other times that cleaning apartments and forcing them to drink and just different things. And like I said, they already knew he was dangerous and reckless, and they were very nervous about what he was doing with these pledges. So what they landed up deciding was, after their Monday night chapter meeting, oh, hey, we're just going to talk to him and tell him, you need to calm it down or whatever. And that's what they did. They talked to him, and his response to them was, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And that's what he did. And he held the Bible study. He was part of the planning for that Wednesday night. And then he was teaching Max a lesson because Max had been late to other hazing activities they had done over that 29 days. And so he was all in Max's face. And supposedly he didn't like Max, which I can totally see because he's totally opposite of Max, right?
Personality now, right?
Yeah. I'm not surprised. And I'm sure Max didn't really care for him, but Max probably just tried to avoid him is what I'm thinking. Because that's what Max would do. Whatever. Everyone else likes me. Whatever. But, so yeah, he focused on Max that night, and he, had that boy in less than an hour and a half drink, 190 proof grain alcohol to where his blood alcohol was 0.495 at the autopsy 2 days later. So, they think it was 32 ounces of 190 proof grain alcohol. But my God, to have to consume that quickly, of course, that's what's also so stupid to me is the alcohol abuse that goes on with the hazing, because, I could have a glass of wine, right? And I could have 2 glasses of wine, feel nothing. Michelle has 1 glass of wine and she's like, loop-de-doo. You have no idea yourself how you're going to react to any sort of alcohol, much less forcing it on somebody else and then how their reaction is going to be and what they're going to metabolize.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know this person and how they react
to
it.
It's a total hazing is totally bullying to me. It's giving a bully a platform because, and especially these guys that are going to go out and do things so severe, you're freaking mean. You're a cruel, mean person who is trying to cause harm on somebody else during this process. And, like we always say, Max's death wasn't an accident because hazing is not an accident. You are willingly doing that, and you're literally playing like Russian roulette with somebody else's life,
Yeah, I mean, somebody had to go buy the alcohol and, like have the plan and,
Mhm.
and what's this, quote, Bible study going to look like tonight? And,
Yeah.
Have the games in mind. And
Mhm.
that peer pressure is so real
Yeah.
on both sides,
Mhm.
of the young recruits of, well, if I could just get through this night.
Yep.
It's going to be bad tonight, but, I can get
Mhm.
through it. They got through it last
We only got
year.
like 2 more weeks. We
Right.
got to do like
We
2
can
more
do it.
things.
We'll stick together.
And the active brothers telling them late, like, oh, this is the last one. This is the
Yeah.
last one. And then you're in. And it's really, I mean, it's almost like a little cult going on there for a while, and you really want to be a part of this group. Of course, you don't think anything bad is going to happen to you. And, you're kind, I mean, you've already invested so much in it. And, and I know these pledges too, like your pledge class, like that's who you become close to, I think, in any sorority, fraternity, or whatever. Like I still talk to a lot of my sorority sisters and, a lot of them from my pledge class and blah, blah, blah. But, it's you guys that are kind of doing that bonding and going through these horrible activities. And it is said though that night that Max also was taking some of brunt of some of the punishments for other people because like the guy next to him was like, I guess, really wasted. And I can't remember what it was they had to do. Oh, like Max, if he got something wrong, he could have made the other guy next to him drink. Like you could pass it off.
Oh.
But Max wouldn't do that because he's like, oh my God, he's like this guy. Like I can do it.
Right.
Like I'll just take
Taking
it.
on for his
Yeah.
Just
kind of, they're thinking of each other and trying to help each other out.
Yeah.
However this is going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, there's so much I can say about all that.
Well, and there is, and I know that you go from school to school. I mean, in the fall, you're always gone, which is great. And so tell us what you do when you're gone all the time.
When I'm gone all the time. So I travel during the semesters, and even some summer when they get organizations have like conferences and stuff like that. But during basically the main school semesters, probably September through about beginning of November, and then again in the spring, like February through about April, I will travel across the country to universities or organizations that ask us to come, and we present to them about hazing. And I tell Max's story very in depth, and you see Max's pictures. And a lot of times my friend Evelyn speaks with me, and so she'll tell her son's story, Tim. And you hear what happened, with both boys, very, very in depth and just eye-opening. And then we basically go into a presentation where we talk to them about what hazing is, the things to watch out for. We go through like the degrees of hazing, like, how it can start off really small, like wearing khaki shorts and a polo shirt. Max had to do that. I didn't even think that was hazing, had no idea. But then how it progresses, and it can progress really fast. Maybe you have to shave your head, or you can't, wear makeup, or you have to go around and do errands or things for like the brothers or girlfriends or the sisters or their boyfriends, right? That's not probably going to kill anybody. But then then they go into the sleep deprivation where you have to be up all night on call for any brother or any sister or whoever. If they call you, you have to go get them. There's been a lot of stuff with sleep deprivation of people getting that in car accidents because they fall asleep at the wheel or they hit. There's been one where somebody ran somebody over in the middle of the night. But again, and then it goes into, it could be, hey, you're going to be dropped off, miles and miles from campus with no clothes on, no phone, no nothing. And you have to find your way to campus in the middle of the night. There's so much drinking that like the big brother, little brother nights, and you have to have the family drink, and you have to like chug literally like, a gallon of whiskey by yourself or share it with your brother. And, you end up passing out. That's what happened to at Florida State at Andrew Coffey, big brother, little night, and he had to, drink an entire gallon or whatever of whiskey, and he passed out on the couch and he never woke up, basically like Max. And, and then there's branding. There's so much stuff. There's fight nights. There's paddling. There's just extensive stuff. There's a lot of kids that commit suicide because of what happened to them with hazing, which is horrible. So we kind of go over all that, talk about how mentally, kids have a lot of mental issues about what happened for years to come after that. And even when they're older, and it's just hard. And then we end up going into the laws, wherever you are, wherever we're presenting, we talk about that laws we've changed across the country, how kids can help us with the laws. We talk a lot about medical amnesty. So do the right thing and call 911, get out there and help somebody before something really bad happens and it's too late, Definitely get into that. We talk about a lot of different hazing deaths like I kind of just did. And then we sort of end it with a call to action for the, schools and the campuses. And it's, what can you do to change this hazing culture? And we go all into it, reporting it, no tolerance, a no tolerance for any hazing of any kind, being a leader, sharing what you do right with the rest of your campus as opposed to what these others are doing wrong. Like, not everyone hazes, believe it or not. They don't. And they got a really good, thing going that needs to be shared, and more guidance out there with it. And then, we just kind of close it up, and we're there to help. We've got a lot of social media, and kids do contact us to help them stop something before it goes bad.
Well, I'm so glad that you're explaining all this, because I am that naive person. Like, I am that naive person that's like, what is that?
Yeah,
I don't.
I agree.
I didn't know
mean,
what hazing. Until
yeah.
I met you, I did not know what hazing was.
I didn't know about hazing like this either when Max was going away to school. I mean, I had heard of hazing. I never experienced hazing in college. I guess I didn't really hang out with that many fraternity guys, but I never was around for any sort of hazing. You would hear about it, but oh my God, now, I mean, I know way more about the things they do than I would have ever wanted to know, or any parent would want to know. Most parents, if they knew some of these things that these kids were doing and the extremes that they make these kids go through, would literally make their head spins. But that's the thing. The kids they're not going to tell their parents even how bad these things are. And honestly, they're humiliating, a lot of what they do.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
But they just kind of get brainwashed into that they have to do this, or I'm not going to be in this fraternity. And honestly, at the end of the day, I'm like, why would you want to be in a fraternity or a sorority or any organization you're proving yourself to them by humiliating yourself, demoralizing, it's terrible. It's really just terrible. And I think our education piece of that is very good for these young adults. And I do want to start talking more with parents. We're going to do that actually in Maine this fall. I'm doing a whole parent session at a high school up there. So I think it's important because parents, I didn't realize, no idea what actually goes on. And like I said, now I know way too much.
Well, and just, as I've listened to you, I think about just our group that gets together, just our title, Warrior Moms. And I am listening to you, and I feel that fierceness and that, just your great love of Max, and that you want his death not to be in vain, that there can be, like you and Blakely sitting making those bracelets, that this can have good, that it goes with Max's blessings. Like, there can be good that comes out of this darkness. And so talk about that. Just what does, going around the country and doing the education piece, how does that help you on your grief journey?
I think it's been really great for me in the aspect of it definitely gave me a purpose, after losing Max, and I could focus on that to try to make the world a better place, right? I always say, about no matter, I don't care how many people we're talking to. I don't care if it's 25 people or it's literally 5,000 people. If I change one person's mind in that presentation, whether not to haze or to get involved, or stop a hazing that's going on, and to step in, or someone calling 911 when something seems way out of hand, and not playing Russian roulette with somebody else's life. If I've changed just one person's mind in some way, I think we've succeeded in carrying on Max's legacy. And what Max needed the most, somebody else is now going to do for somebody else. And we get messages and letters and stuff, not all the time, but a lot over the last few years of like, oh no, I thought of Max. I looked down at my bracelet and I was about to get that other, another drink from the keg. And then I was like, you know what? I've had enough. I don't need any more. Or, somebody is passed out in the bushes outside of a house and everyone's arguing about, let them just sleep it off. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. And somebody's like, no, I just thought of Max. Like Max is in their head. And they're like, no, we're calling an ambulance.
Oh, gosh, Rae Ann, I thought of Max. I mean, that gives me chills. It speaks volumes about your mission and that Max has made a difference in this world. He's helping somebody else,
And what an important time to hear about Max's story and your mission, with school starting and rushing, college games.
Football.
Yeah, it's just so important to hear about just the incredible dangers of hazing and how quickly it turns
sour.
dark. Yeah.
Like I said, something I'd never thought of, never knew about.
So thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for listening, and
we'll talk to you next time.
talk to you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.